Boy, that guy can coach. Like when you watch a Celtic game and you see those dots where the scores are, he always has 3-4 timeouts left every game, and it paid off tonight. 3 times they call timeouts in situations. He dials up the play, and they score each time. Here it is. Up by 1 out of a timeout. They isolate Horford to go 1-on-1 against Tristan Thompson.
One of the few times in the series they've actually posted Tristan Thompson up directly here.
I love that play. He suckered into a quick 2.
If Kevin Love's going to cheat off Jerebko, I get it. But Jerebko just stepped up, made the shot. This is the one that's the killer because it's so preventable for Avery Bradley to get open on that play.
JR was under the basket.
J.R. Smith and Shumpert, they came together, and both guys went with Crowder. Bradley pops out. It's so easy to deny that first pass if you just switch appropriately right there. Instead, Bradley pops out uncontested, knocks it down.
Good to know. It's good to know your whiteboard.
And the three-point line has changed basketball. I mean, this was the game. Celtics outscored the Cavs by 19 in the second half. Cavs were 2 of 17 from 3. Celtics 11 of 22.
And Cavs had some good looks, some early ones, some bad ones, but they had some really clean looks. And some of their role players aren't knocking down shots. I mentioned to you guys off the air, Kyle Korver, I've never seen him miss this many good shots.
1 of 5.
The rhythm's not the same as it was in Atlanta. I get that because the minutes are more limited. But this guy's typically automatic on the good looks, and he is just not knocking those down. And if a role player like that hits 2 or 3 of those and a half, it makes an enormous difference. He wasn't able to do that either. But almost half the shots in this game were 3-point attempts.
32-9 was your bench scoring tonight. 32-9.
You're born in the wrong era, man.
In favor of Boston.
20 years too soon.
He's making $12 million a year if he was playing now. Kevin Connors is in Cleveland with PJ Carlesimo. Need the coach to break this down. This is why they play the games, Kevin.
Bucci, you're right on. Hey, this was supposed to be a night where the Cavaliers set the all-time NBA postseason record for consecutive playoff wins. It would have been 14 in a row had they won tonight, PJ. But Celtic pride got in the way. I want you to explain to me the biggest difference, the one reason why the team who lost by 44 points in Game 2 won Game 3.
Celtic resiliency. Brad's guys just didn't quit. They very easily could have quit at halftime. They played well in the first half, and they're down 20. It's like it doesn't matter how hard we play, nothing's working. But they didn't. They came out in the third quarter, and it's not like they turned it around and caught him right away. They just kept chipping away, chipping away. They got great help from their bench. Legs talked about the Cleveland bench not really helping out tonight. 32-9 is a big discrepancy, but they inched their way back in. Marcus Smart was tremendous. I thought Jonas Jerebko in the third quarter really helped set the tone for them. All those little fracases, he's bumping guys, he got a tip-in rebound, he knocked down a three-point shot. All of those things really mattered for Boston. And then they're back in the game, and now it's close. And LeBron had one of those nights. All night he played as if he were exhausted. He played as if he's been playing 42 or 45 minutes. He was getting passes deflected. I think he had 6 turnovers. Just wasn't the normal LeBron. Kyrie was great. Kevin Love was great. Tristan Thompson boarded. But it wasn't enough because the Celtics just kept coming at him. And the bench was really huge for Boston.
Was this an off night for LeBron James, or was he tired to you, PJ?
Well, LeBron's the only one that knows the answer to that. I would think fatigue was a factor for sure. It's also hard to play at the level they played at the first 2 games. I mean, they were unbelievable, and LeBron was even better than that. So I think a little bit of both. And again, he struggled. He didn't shoot the ball well. His free throws were short. He fumbled the ball a couple times. He recovered it himself, but it just looked from the beginning like it wasn't him. And when he tried to turn it on early fourth quarter and take control of the game, it wasn't there. And got to credit Boston defense for a lot of that, but that was not the LeBron James we saw, certainly not the one we saw in Boston.
Right, this story is as much about what the Celtics did, obviously, to come back from 21 down in the third quarter to win this game on the road without Isaiah Thomas. But we're going to go back to some of the numbers of the Cavaliers, PJ. In the first half, 14 for 22 from three-point range. In the second half, they were 2 for 17. How do you explain that big of a difference?
Well, again, I think better contest in the second half. There's no question about that. Celtics did a much better job contesting. Brad Stevens in his post-game press conference, Kev, he said, hey, I thought we played pretty good defense. They made some shots in the first half. Now, again, they also blew some rotations. A number of Kevin Love's looks were wide open, but a number of other ones were just tough shots. He made that one in front of the Celtic bench. Al Horford was climbing all over him. He just knocked it down. They made some shots in the first half. They've been the best three-point shooting team in the playoffs so far. Those shots didn't go. You're going to take a lot of threes. You're not going to shoot 50 or 60% from the three-point line. And the opposite for Boston. When Boston threes started going down, and everybody forgets, these two teams have taken the most threes and made the most threes in the playoffs. So the three-point line can go a long way toward deciding the game.
Right, you'd think it might be Golden State. That's been their pedigree, but these two teams shoot it well. And in the first half, Cleveland shot the lights out. Second half, a very different story. We're waiting to hear from LeBron James, what he has to say following Game 3. We'll bring it to you live here coming up. We talk so often, PJ, about coaching in the NBA. This guy's a great coach. And I think a lot of times it's hard for the viewer at home to notice when there's great coaching going on. For me, with Brad Stevens, you can see it. Set plays, you can flat out see the execution, and we saw it here in Game 3. It's one of the big reasons they won.
Well, down the stretch, you heard Bucci and John and Legs talking about going to Al Horford after one timeout, but the last two buckets, Kelly Olynyk's play that probably should have been a three. Jonas Jerebko, he let his toe get on the line. That was a set play. And then the final play was great execution. He sent Bradley down into the corner. They screened off him. They brought him off the thing. He was bare for the biggest shot of the game. So chalk that up to execution. Also, the 2-for-1. Wasn't an accident that they got two shots at the end. They took that shot to get the 2-for-1. So even though Kyrie made that great drive and got to the basket, there was still enough time left on the clock for Boston to take a timeout, for Brad to draw up the play, and most importantly, for his players to execute.
I want you to tell me, as someone who's been inside a locker room, Al Horford, as he left the floor after Game 3 tonight, made it a point to tell the media, keep doubting us. I mean, this was a Celtics team, PJ, down 41 at the half in Game 2. They lost by 44. They're without Isaiah Thomas. If anyone had an excuse to fold it in and pack it up and send it home, it would be the Celtics. So how does Brad Stevens, how do the players in that locker room get together to believe that they can beat this team in this building?
Well, you can't be playing in an Eastern Conference Finals. You can't have won the Eastern Conference if you don't have a lot of confidence in yourself. And I think they were tired of listening to people like myself. I stood on the floor at Boston Garden and said this series is over. Well, guess what? It's not over. It's 2-1. It's a huge Game 4. Who's probably going to win the series? Of course, Cleveland. They're a much deeper team. They're a much better team right now. Boston Celtics didn't want to hear any of that. Even at halftime, I'm more amazed at halftime tonight for them to compete the way they competed in the first half and really had nothing to show for it, to go into the locker room at halftime and come out and get back in the game in the third quarter. Had they, just showed up in the beginning of the first quarter, started making all the shots, and Cleveland looked like they really weren't here tonight, I'd have said, okay, that was expected. Not the way they played in the second half. That was tremendous self-confidence and resiliency and belief in their abilities by the Boston Celtics.
We are waiting to hear from LeBron James. Again, when he steps in front of the microphone, we'll bring you his post-game news conference here. What do you want to hear from LeBron? What do you want to hear him say in explaining what happened tonight?
I think he's never an excuse guy. He'll just say they got beat. He didn't play as well as he's capable of playing. They're up 2-1. Their mission is to win 16 games. They're at 10 and counting right now, and he will be thinking ahead. There's no question about that. He's going to be thinking ahead to Tuesday night. We got to take care of business on Tuesday night. I'll be surprised if he says anything other than they outplayed us. We've got to play better on Tuesday.
I think John Anderson in studio the other night said we're looking at two locomotives going towards each other, and you know what? He's right, I think, but there's been a little bit of a detour, guys, in Game 3 here in Cleveland tonight. A stunning win by the Celtics.
Stunning is right. I mean, it's sort of a bit of a jaw dropper. Sustainable?
Can't see that happening.
Right.
I can't see that, but they really shouldn't have been able to get this.
Like,
game
you got
tonight.
their attention now, which you would think is not what you wanted to have happen.
I got to give so much credit to Brad Stevens for even getting this team mentally prepared to be in the state of mind to come out and play as hard as they did, particularly coming out of the locker room at halftime. Sometimes we get caught up in what happened, to the favorite, what happened to the best player on the floor, rather than, hey, let's look at what these guys did do, which is had some spirit tonight, which is hard to generate after what happened to you 2 nights ago.